What happens when the world's biggest pop star walks onto daytime television expecting a friendly chat and instead finds herself face-to-face with a host who pushes one question too far? Before we dive into this unbelievable confrontation, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, hit the like button, and comment to boost the story so more people see it. Now, let's step inside the moment everything went off the rails. The studio lights of The View burned brighter than usual that morning, like they sensed the storm coming. The audience buzzed as the producers whispered urgently through their headsets. Taylor Swift hadn't even appeared on stage yet, but everyone could feel that familiar electricity she brought into any room. Backstage, a makeup artist dabbed the final shimmer across her cheekbones, but Taylor wasn't smiling. She was thinking. Thinking about the questions she'd been told she'd face. Thinking about the calm, respectful conversation she expected, thinking that this would be simple. She had no idea. The theme music hit, the cameras rolled, the co-hosts, Whoopi, Sunny, Alyssa, Sarah, and Joy, settled into their seats as applause flooded the room like a tidal wave. Joy Behar leaned forward with that wry smirk she was known for, tapping her stack of blue cards against the table. She looked ready. "And please welcome," Whoopi announced. "The one, the only Taylor Swift." Taylor stepped onto the stage, smiling like a professional, gracious as always. She waved to the crowd as they rose to their feet, cheering so loudly the floor trembled. She took her seat between Sarah and Sunny, smoothing her skirt, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't notice Joy staring already, sizing her up like she was waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. "Taylor," Sarah began warmly. "You've had a massive year. The Eras Tour, the movie, the awards, everything. How are you feeling?" Taylor exhaled softly, finally letting her shoulders loosen. "Grateful. Honestly, that's the word. It's been overwhelming in the best way. I feel like every day I wake up and have to ask myself if all this is even real." The audience chuckled gently. She smiled, but Joy didn't. Not even a twitch. Sunny asked a few thoughtful questions about songwriter, about advocacy, about the emotional weight of performing night after night. Taylor answered with ease, drifting into stories that pulled the audience in like a warm blanket. Everything felt smooth, controlled, almost soothing. Then Joy cleared her throat into her microphone. "So, Taylor," she said, glancing at her cards with exaggerated casualness. "I'm curious about something your fans may not love." Instantly, the air changed. A ripple went through the crowd. A faint shift in the co-host's posture. Taylor's smile faltered, only slightly. Sarah shot Joy a quick look. "Not now." Joy continued, "Anyway, you've been everywhere lately. Concerts, red carpets, football games." She paused just long enough for the implication to bite. "Do you think there's a point where it's too much, like maybe you're overexposed?" Half the audience gasped. The other half went dead silent. Taylor blinked. Her fingers curled slowly around the edge of the table. Joy leaned back, satisfied with the tension she just injected into the room. "Well," Taylor said carefully, "I think being visible isn't the same as being overexposed. I show up for my fans. I show up for my work. I'm proud of that." Joy nodded, unimpressed. "Sure, but isn't it possible that the constant attention might annoy people or distract from other things happening in the world?" Sarah's eyes widened. "Joy, no." "Oh no," Joy cut her off. "I'm asking what people are thinking." Taylor breathed in quietly through her nose. "I don't force people to watch me. I'm not demanding anyone's attention. I live my life. I perform. I create. And I hope people take what they want from it. It was the kind of answer that usually diffused tension. But Joy wasn't done. She hummed, squinting at Taylor as if trying to see right through her. What about the criticism that your presence at NFL games is, let's say, overshadowing the athletes there? It was the question Taylor had been told wouldn't be asked. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Taylor sat up straighter. I go to support someone I care about. The cameras choosing to film me isn't something I control, right? But you do realize, Joy pressed, that some people think it's too much. That you're too much. Taylor exhaled. Not shaky, not weak, but steady, grounded. A sound of a woman preparing her words with precision. If someone thinks I'm too much, she said quietly. Maybe they're not used to seeing a woman live without apologizing for her success. The audience erupted. Applause, cheers, gasps. Joy stiffened like she hadn't expected Taylor to fire back. Sarah's mouth fell open. Whoopi raised her eyebrows so high they practically touched her hairline. Joy didn't smile this time. She leaned forward again, voice sharp. So, you're saying your critics are sexist? I'm saying, Taylor replied, locking eyes with her, that if someone is bothered by me simply existing in public, maybe the problem isn't me. The applause grew even louder. Some audience members stood. A few even shouted her name. The studio was shaking under the noise. Joy wasn't letting it go. Oh, come on, she snapped. Everyone gets criticized. You're not immune. You can't play the victim every time someone questions your choices. Taylor froze, not hurt, but stunned by the bluntness, by the charge hidden in Joy's tone, by the insinuation that she was somehow playing a role instead of being honest. I don't see myself as a victim, Taylor said slowly. But I won't pretend that double standards don't exist. I won't pretend that scrutiny isn't harsher for women. I won't sugarcoat that to make anyone more comfortable. Joy opened her mouth again, but Taylor's voice cut through the room with sudden startling clarity. And I won't apologize, she said, for living my life boldly. A collective "oh" rolled through the audience. The kind that comes before a real fallout. For the first time since the segment began, Joy looked genuinely rattled. The stage lights felt hotter. The air felt thinner. Even the cameras seemed to zoom in instinctively, sensing something seismic unfolding in real time. Taylor Swift wasn't retreating. She was rising. And the moment she did, the line between a simple talk show interview and an unforgettable confrontation shattered, leaving everyone on set wondering what Joy Behar would dare to say next and whether Taylor would let her. The silence didn't last long. Not on a stage like this. Not in a moment so tense it felt like the oxygen itself was bracing for impact. Joy Behar's lips pressed into a thin line as Taylor Swift's words lingered in the air like sparks after an electrical short. The audience wasn't just reacting anymore. They were hanging on, waiting, leaning forward as if gravity itself had shifted toward the table. Taylor didn't look away. She didn't break her composure. There was something in her eyes now. Resolve, steel. A quiet fire that came from years of navigating public scrutiny, sharper than any interview question. Joy recognized it, and for a moment her expression faltered, but she wasn't backing down either. Well, Joy said, tapping her pen against the table. That's a very poetic answer. Conveniently poetic, I might add. A ripple of murmurs spread through the audience. Sarah's jaw clenched. Taylor responded with a level tone. Poetry is kind of my job, but the convenience is only for people who want to pretend these issues don't exist. Joy cocked her head. So, what, you're some kind of spokesperson now for women, for fairness, for whatever movement is trending this week? Sarah shot her a warning look. Joy, stop. But Joy's eyes stayed locked on Taylor. Taylor didn't flinch. I don't speak for everyone. I speak from my experience. That's all any of us can do. Oh, please, Joy said, waving her hand. You're not just speaking from experience. You influence the entire culture. Millions of people hang on to your every word. And sometimes some might say you use that influence a little selectively. Taylor sat back, stunned but steady. What does that mean? Joy leaned in. You know exactly what it means. No one breathed. Sunny broke in gently. Joy, maybe we can pivot. No, Joy said sharply. Let's be honest here, Taylor. You've built a reputation on empowerment, but you choose your causes carefully. You speak up when it benefits your image, when the timing is perfect, when it's safe. The air in the studio snapped like a stretched wire. Taylor swallowed once, not because she was afraid, but because she was weighing her message. Her truth. Her temperature was steady, but her pulse was awake, ready. That's a serious accusation, Taylor said softly. It's an observation, Joy countered. Taylor shook her head. No, it's an assumption and a wrong one. I don't speak to be applauded. I speak when I believe something matters. Joy crossed her arms conveniently. Honestly, Taylor said, voice low and steady. It's exhausting being told that whatever I do, however I show up, it's somehow wrong. Too much, too political, not enough, too silent. I've lived in this double bind for years. The audience murmured in solidarity. Joy wasn't done. Then maybe, Joy said with a shrug. You should stop caring so much about how people see you. Taylor blinked. I don't care about being liked. I care about being understood. And those aren't the same thing. That line hit the room like a storm. A wave of applause thundered up from the crowd. The stage lights shimmered against the glossy desk as Joy's face hardened. But she pushed again. Look, I'm not trying to tear you down, Joy said, though her tone said otherwise. I'm just saying that with the influence you have, you should expect the heat. Taylor nodded once. I do every day, so don't be surprised when someone questions you. I'm not surprised, Taylor said. I'm disappointed. Joy's expression cracked, genuine shock flashing briefly in her eyes. Taylor continued. I came here because I respect this show. I respect the conversations you have. But when someone twists genuine intention into manipulation or performance, that isn't a conversation. That's provocation. A few audience members gasped. Others clapped, unsure whether they were supposed to. The energy had shifted again, this time into something deeper, heavier. Not just confrontation, but something personal. And I won't sit here and let you imply, Taylor added, that I only speak when it benefits me. You don't know what I don't say. You don't know what I face. You don't know the things I choose to handle privately to protect the people I love. Joy was about to respond, but Taylor wasn't finished. You see the spotlight, she said, and you assume it makes things easier. But the brighter the spotlight, the longer the shadows. A stunned hush swept across the crowd. Joy's jaw clenched. You're very dramatic. Taylor's lips curved, an unmistakably sharp smile. I write songs for a living, Joy. Drama is kind of my brand. Laughter erupted, cutting the tension for a split second. Even Whoopi smiled, but Joy leaned forward again, eyes narrowed. Fine, let's talk about something concrete then. The NFL thing, the audience groaned. Sarah literally closed her eyes like she was begging the universe for patience. Joy went on, some fans are saying your appearances are overshadowing the sport, that it's becoming the Taylor show whenever you're in the stands. Do you take responsibility for turning football into a spectacle centered around you? Taylor's smile disappeared. Do I take responsibility, she said slowly, for showing up to support my partner? Joy didn't blink. Yes. Taylor let out a sound. Half laugh, half disbelief. You're blaming me for camera operators choosing to film me. Joy shrugged. You're a public figure. You know how it works. Taylor leaned in then, not aggressively, but with a softness so sharp it cut. You know what's interesting, Joy? When male actors attend games to support their partners, nobody says they're hijacking the sport. Nobody says they're too visible. Nobody says they're a distraction. A few audience members shouted. Exactly. Taylor continued, her voice rising with conviction. But when it's a woman, especially a successful one, it suddenly becomes a problem. Suddenly, it's overexposure. Suddenly, it's too much. Joy's face twitched, but she held her ground. So, it's all sexism again. Not all, Taylor said. But enough. Joy slapped her cards lightly on the table. You really think people can't criticize you without it being rooted in sexism? Of course they can, Taylor said. But you didn't ask a criticism. You implied intent. You implied manipulation. That's not harmless. Sarah jumped in then, unable to hold back any longer. Joy, she's right. There's a difference between asking tough questions and assigning motives. Joy turned on Sarah. I'm doing my job and I'm answering, Taylor said firmly. The audience roared again. But this time, Taylor didn't feed off the energy. She stayed locked, steady, centered, unwavering. Joy looked at her like she was searching for a crack, a falter, a stumble. Instead, she found fire. Taylor said quietly. I'm not here to be palatable, Joy. I'm here to be honest. A hush swept the studio. Even the cameras seemed to hold still. Joy straightened her cards, frustrated. Fine, then be honest. Do you think all the attention you get is always earned? A collective gasp filled the air. Taylor let the silence breathe before responding. I think, she said, voice like ice warming into steel, that I've spent my whole adult life working harder than people realize to earn everything I have. And if someone still can't see it, that's their blindness. Not my burden. The crowd exploded. Some stood. Some cheered her name. Even Whoopi tapped the table in approval. But Joy. Joy's eyes hardened into something deeper, something sharper. And as she opened her mouth again, ready to push the confrontation into dangerous new territory, the producers' voices crackled frantically through the co-hosts' earpieces. They had no idea what was coming next. They just knew they were losing control. And the moment that realization hit, the interview shifted yet again into something raw, unpredictable, and moments away from turning into the most unforgettable clash daytime TV had seen in years. The producers' voices buzzed urgently in the co-hosts' earpieces, but Joy Behar didn't even twitch. She had locked onto Taylor Swift like a spotlight, searching for heat, for weakness, for anything she could twist into a headline. The studio audience sensed it, too. The shift, the acceleration, the sudden feeling that this wasn't an interview anymore. It was a collision course. Taylor sat still, her hands folded loosely in her lap, but her posture was stronger now. No shrinking, no softening, no attempt to water down her answers to keep the peace. She had stepped fully into the moment, and the moment was growing darker by the second. Whoopi glanced toward the control booth, eyebrows raised as if she was silently asking, "Do we cut to commercial?" But Joy leaned forward before anyone could intervene. "Taylor," she said, voice crisp and pointed. "The thing people keep bringing up. And what I'm trying to get at is accountability. You get praise, awards, attention. But do you ever step back and wonder whether the scale of your influence is excessive?" Gasps echoed across the studio. Sarah sat ramrod straight, eyes flashing. Taylor's gaze didn't waver. "Influence isn't something I force on anyone. It's something people choose to give." Joy smirked. "Is that what you think, or is that what your PR team tells you?" A stunned murmur rippled through the crowd. Taylor inhaled sharply, her jaw tightening for the first time. "My PR team doesn't script my beliefs." "Oh, come on," Joy snapped. "Everything you say is calculated." Taylor's voice grew cold. "That's a lazy accusation." "Is it?" Joy challenged. Taylor leaned in, her eyes suddenly blazing. "Yes, because if it was all calculation, if every single breath I took had to be rehearsed or approved, I wouldn't have survived in this industry. People would see right through it. Genuine connection can't be faked at that scale." Joy laughed under her breath, but it had no humor. "Genuine really?" Taylor didn't miss a beat. "Yes, genuine. The millions of people who come to my shows, who wait in line for days, they don't do that because someone calculated a message for them. They do it because something real resonates, something honest." Or Joy countered, "Because you've built a brand so powerful that people feel obligated to like you." Taylor blinked, not in disbelief, but in disbelief that Joy would go there. Sarah couldn't stay silent anymore. "Joy, that's unfair." Joy turned her head sharply. "I'm asking a question." "No," Taylor said suddenly, her voice soft but forceful. "You're planting a narrative. There's a difference." The audience erupted. Applause rattled the stage. Someone in the front row shouted, "Tell her, Taylor." A few even booed at Joy. Joy's eyes widened, momentarily startled by the crowd turning on her, but she didn't back down. Not even for a heartbeat. "Fine," Joy fired back. "Then let me ask you something simple. When you show up at football games, when you post politically, when you call for your fans to take action, are you aware of the sway you have? Are you aware that you could drive millions of people in one direction with a single sentence?" Taylor's nostrils flared slightly. "Emotion, yes, but controlled." "Of course, I'm aware," she said. "Anyone with influence should be aware, and that's why I choose my moments carefully, not for optics, but for impact." Joy pounced. "So, you do curate your image?" Taylor almost laughed. "Everyone with a platform curates what they share, including you, Joy." A few people clapped again, sharper this time. Taylor continued. "But I don't curate to manipulate. I curate to communicate. I share what I believe is meaningful, not what's marketable." Joy squinted. "So, you're saying you don't think about how things will make you look?" Taylor held her gaze evenly. "I think about what is right, not how it'll be received." The audience roared. The noise filled the studio like a rising tide. But Joy wasn't satisfied. She wanted the moment that broke Taylor. She wanted the crack. She wanted the clip. So, Joy said, drawing out the word. If you care so much about doing the right thing, where was this energy 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were quiet on issues people expected you to speak about? When you stayed neutral, the audience hushed. Even the air stilled. Taylor's eyes flickered with something deep, something unspoken, a long shadow from her past. There it is, Joy said under her breath. That's what people want to know. Taylor's shoulders rose with a breath. Slow, heavy, steady. She held Joy's stare, refusing to look away, refusing to be cornered by a version of herself she'd already outgrown. You want honesty, Taylor said, voice quieter now, almost trembling with sincerity. Fine, I'll give it to you. The set went silent. I was afraid, she said. Joy blinked, thrown off. Afraid, yes, Taylor said. I grew up in an industry where speaking up could end your career, where your opinions could be used against you, where being nice meant staying out of trouble, and I bought into it. I believe that silence kept me safe. She glanced briefly at the audience, just enough to include them in her vulnerability. But, silence doesn't protect you, she whispered. It just isolates you. And I learned that the hard way. Nobody clapped this time. They were too caught up, too immersed. Joy unexpectedly softened just for a moment. So what changed? Taylor looked down at her hands, then back up with eyes full of gravity. I realized that if I had this platform, this voice, and I chose not to use it when it mattered, then I was part of the problem. And I won't be part of the problem, Joy swallowed. She hadn't expected that answer, Taylor added. So yes, I grew. I changed, and I'm not ashamed of that. The audience erupted, louder than any reaction so far. Applause thundered. Some people stood. Sarah placed a hand over her heart. Sunny nodded approvingly. Even Whoopi watched Taylor with a newfound respect. Joy looked shaken, flustered, like the ground beneath her argument had cracked open. But she wasn't done. Taylor, Joy said, her voice slightly unsteady now. If you really believe all of this, if you stand by everything you're saying, then tell me this. Do you think you're a role model? Taylor didn't hesitate. No, she said. The audience froze. Joy sat back, shocked. No. Taylor shook her head. I don't call myself that. I don't think anyone should. People aren't perfect. People make mistakes. I'm not here to be put on a pedestal. I'm here to be human. Joy stared at her speechless. Taylor continued, if someone finds inspiration in what I do, I'm grateful. Truly. But I'm not here to teach anyone how to live. I'm here to live my own life with integrity. That's all. The applause that followed wasn't loud. It was deep, a connection, a resonance. But behind the supportive noise, a new tension was rising quietly. Joy leaned back, exhaling slowly as she searched for something, anything that could reclaim the upper hand. Her fingers twitched over her blue cards. Her jaw shifted. The corners of her mouth tightened. She had one more angle, one more push, one more question. She'd been saving for the end. And Taylor could feel it. The audience could feel it. Even the co-hosts could feel it. Joy's voice dropped colder than before. So tell me, Taylor, she said, not blinking. With all your influence, with all your visibility, with all this noise surrounding your relationship, do you ever worry that maybe you're overshadowing Travis Kelce's career? The crowd gasped so loudly it sounded like a wave crashing. Taylor's lips parted. A flicker of disbelief crossed her face. Joy went on. Do you ever think maybe he's becoming known as your boyfriend rather than a star athlete in his own right? Sarah whispered. Oh, Joy. Sunny closed her eyes. Whoopi's head snapped toward the control room again. But Taylor. Taylor didn't flinch. She didn't stammer. She didn't retreat. Instead, she straightened slowly, gracefully, like a queen rising from her throne with absolute clarity. Her voice came out low, calm, and devastatingly controlled. That, she said, is the most disrespectful question you've asked all day. The audience erupted, shouting, cheering, gasping. Taylor continued. Travis Kelce is one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history. He doesn't need me to validate his success. He doesn't need me to define him. He is extraordinary on his own. And anyone who can't see that is underestimating him. Not because of me, but because they don't understand who he is. Joy swallowed hard. Taylor leaned forward, her final words like lightning cracking across the desk. So, no, Joy. I'm not overshadowing him. I'm supporting him. And if anyone feels threatened by a woman cheering for the person she loves, that speaks volumes about them. Not me. The audience exploded. People stood. People screamed. The room shook. And for the first time all morning, Joy Behar looked genuinely speechless. And the producers, they finally made their decision. Their frantic voices crackled in unison through every co-host's earpiece. We have to cut to commercial now. But it was too late. The moment had already gone viral. The confrontation had already crossed the point of no return. And when they returned from that commercial break, the entire studio would feel the aftershocks of what Taylor Swift had just unleashed. When the screen faded to black for the commercial break, the studio didn't relax. It didn't even breathe. The tension hung in the air like smoke from a wildfire, thick, choking, impossible to ignore. Audience members whispered rapidly to each other, replaying every line, every glare, every sharp edge of the exchange that had just unfolded. Producers scrambled around the stage, speaking in fast, frantic bursts. Camera operators adjusted their angles like soldiers preparing for the next attack. And at the center of it all, Taylor Swift sat perfectly still, not shaken, not rattled, just ready. Joy Behar stared down at her cue cards, flipping them without reading them, her face flushed. She wasn't embarrassed. No embarrassment would have softened her expression. This was something else, a calculation, a recalibration, a moment where even she realized the boundaries had shifted and she'd pushed them so far that they had snapped. The break ended, the music faded. The lights came back up and the audience leaned in, sensing the aftershock before it hit. Whoopi cleared her throat, trying to reclaim control. We're back with Taylor Swift, but the audience wasn't listening. They were watching the tension between Taylor and Joy like it was the final scene of a drama they never expected to witness in real life. Joy inhaled slowly as if bracing herself. Taylor, before the break, we were discussing respect, Taylor said calmly, cutting through the air like a blade. A collective murmur spread across the crowd. Joy blinked. Well, Taylor continued, her voice steady but unshakably firm. And the way we talk about the people in our lives, the way we diminish them intentionally or not. Joy leaned back, caught off guard again. Look, I wasn't trying to diminish. You did, Taylor said not harshly, but truthfully. You questioned my partner's accomplishments. You framed his career around my existence. That's disrespectful to both of us. Joy tightened her jaw. It was a question. "That's my job, and it's my job to answer honestly," Taylor replied. The audience burst into supportive applause. Sarah placed a hand lightly on Taylor's arm. "Taylor, that was extremely well said." Taylor nodded once, acknowledging her without breaking eye contact with Joy. Joy took a long breath, then exhaled sharply through her nose. "All right," she said, voice controlled but clipped. "Let's move on." But Taylor didn't let the tension be swept away. "I will move on," she said softly. But not by pretending that what was said didn't matter. Joy slowly set down her cards. "So, what do you want to say?" Taylor didn't hesitate. "That we cannot empower women by undermining the men who support them. And we cannot champion equality while implying that a woman's presence diminishes a man's success." Sonny nodded vigorously. "That part." Taylor continued, "Partnership isn't competition. It's collaboration. Strength supporting strength, and I'm proud to support someone who supports me just as fiercely." A wave of emotional applause swept through the studio. Joy remained still, Taylor added. "And I hope sincerely we can talk about women without turning their existence into a liability." For several seconds, Joy Behar didn't respond. Her face softened barely but visibly. And for the first time today, something like respect flickered in her expression. "You know what?" Joy finally said, "Fair enough." The room stilled. "Fair enough," she repeated, nodding once. "Point taken." The audience gasped in unified shock. Did Joy Behar just back down? But Taylor didn't smirk, didn't gloat, didn't bask. Instead, she offered a small, warm nod. "Thank you." Sarah exhaled in relief, her shoulders dropping. Whoopi's eyebrows lifted with something like gratitude. Sonny smiled softly, almost proud. Even Alyssa glanced between Joy and Taylor as if witnessing something rare. The atmosphere shifted slowly, gently, like the first calm breeze after a violent storm. But the moment wasn't finished, because while the tension on the stage eased, the world outside the studio was already erupting. Phones buzzed in the audience. Notifications flashed like fireworks in the dim glow of the overhead lights. Clips from just minutes earlier were already circulating online, on X, on TikTok, on Instagram, on every platform with a pulse. Swift shuts down. Joy Behar live. Taylor schools the view. Joy Behar tries it. Taylor ends it. Daytime TV just changed forever. A producer whispered something to Whoopi, but the camera caught her stunned expression before she masked it. "We're trending," she murmured accidentally into her mic. The audience erupted into laughter. Taylor glanced upward, a soft sigh escaping her. Not frustration, not fear, just the awareness that the moment had already left the building and entered the global bloodstream. Joy looked down at her desk, cheeks flushed, not from anger now, but from the sudden realization that she was being watched by millions in real time. When the show wrapped, the applause thundered through the studio. Taylor stood, thanking the co-hosts graciously. Even Joy stood, extending a hand with a tight but genuine nod. Taylor shook it. A truce, thin but real. Backstage, the chaos began immediately. Producers begged Taylor's team for a statement. Reporters gathered like a swarm outside the exit. Fans waited in the street, chanting her name with raw emotion. Taylor walked through it all with calm dignity, her heels clicking softly, her gaze forward, her expression thoughtful. Meanwhile, Joy Behar retreated to her dressing room, closing the door quietly behind her. She sat down, staring at her reflection. For the first time in a long time, she looked shaken, not defeated, but forced to confront her own approach. And the world, it exploded. Serge Taylor on The View. Joy versus Taylor. Taylor Swift shuts it down. Respect Taylor. Respect Travis. Stage View analysis. Comment sections overflowed with disbelief, praise, shock, outrage, admiration, arguments, millions of voices colliding in real time. Major outlets published breaking headlines. Reaction channels fired up instant live streams. Sports commentators weighed in. Feminist scholars weighed in. Even NFL fan pages posted clips of Taylor defending Travis with pride. By nightfall, the confrontation became the #1 trending topic across all platforms. By morning, it was the biggest TV moment of the year. And by the end of the week, it had become a cultural flashpoint, a conversation everyone was talking about. Some said Joy was out of line. Some said Taylor handled it with grace and fire. Some called it iconic. Some called it necessary. Everyone called it unforgettable. And through it all, Taylor stayed grounded, offering a single message to her fans that night. Honesty matters. Respect matters. Kindness matters. Even when the moment gets hard, the world erupted again. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Joy out of bounds? Did Taylor handle it perfectly? Did the moment expose something deeper about how we talk about women in power? Tell us in the comments. Your perspective helps keep the conversation going. And if you want more explosive cinematic breakdowns just like this one, make sure you subscribe to Stage View for the stories, the drama, and the moments that shake the entertainment world. Your voice matters here. Your view matters. This is Stage View, and the story isn't over until you weigh in.